Welcome to our Sales Academy Level 1 pre-seminar number 2. So this segment is to get you warmed up for our second Sales Academy. So I thought what we would do is just review what we went over in the first Sales Academy so that you're ready to hit the ground running. If you remember last time, we started off by explaining that all your customers are on a mission. That mission is to improve their lives. And of course, it's human nature that the customer is urgent about that mission. They're urgent about improving their life. We discussed the idea of the backstory and how the backstory uncovers this urgency. And then we got into the two types of urgency. The first is circumstantial urgency. The second is personal urgency. So what are the differences? Circumstantial urgency are those urgency factors in the mind of the customer that are centered around your product, such as, hey, the price is going to increase next week, hurry up and buy. Or, that's the last one I've got. You better contract for that home today or someone else is going to get it. These circumstantial urgency opportunities are great, but the fact is that they're out of your control. You have no influence over them. You either have the circumstances that are generating the urgency or you don't. There's a whole nother urgency out there, and it's called personal urgency. And the great thing about personal urgency is it's in your control if you're patient enough and curious enough to discover it with your customer. Personal urgency are those factors that are driving the customer to you. They have to do with the customer's life. What's going on in their life, in their situation, that's propelling them forward. And we talked about how powerful that personal urgency is, and the fact that if you can discover it and even combined it with circumstantial urgency, geez, you're running on 8 cylinders. Personal urgency is centered around two motivating factors. The first is current dissatisfaction. The second is future promise. Let's talk about them. Current dissatisfaction, which by the way is the number one reason, it's the number one motivating reason why customers make a buying decision in the first place. Current dissatisfaction gets at, hey, what's wrong with the home that I'm living in now? What's going on that is not working in my life right now? Specific, in our case, to the homes, right? The home that they're living in. There's another motivating factor called future promise. Future promise are the hopes and dreams of what life could be like if they made a buying decision. You combine these two motivating factors and it's very, very powerful in the mind of the customer. It gets customers off the fence and into a home. It helps you get that buying decision. Like anything, on the other side of the equation, if you will, are what we call the inhibitors. There's two of those, cost and fear. These inhibitors slow down the buying cycle. They slow down and make it more complicated or harder for the customer to make a buying decision. Let's look at cost. There are many, many things that make up cost. It's not just the price of the home. It could be the cost of moving. It could be the cost of having to travel further to get to their family or friends or doctors. There's all sorts of those cost factors that are playing in the mind of the customer, that are wrestling with the customer, preventing them from moving forward. We need to understand those. Fear is the other inhibitor. All sorts of fears. The fear of, am I at the right place at the right time? Am I going to love this neighborhood? Am I going to like this home? Am I going to love this home? Can I stay here? Is this the right decision? So there's all these fears that are at play. So we have the motivators on one side and the inhibitors on the other. Collectively, this is the customer's backstory. If we can be patient, ask the right questions, and be curious enough, we will uncover these 4 huge factors, the motivators and the inhibitors. So knowing this helps us help the customer make a buying decision. It makes us much more influential in the sales process. So the buying decision can be plotted and examined using the buying formula. So we unveiled that last time. What's the buying formula? It's the universal construct in the mind of the customer that they go through when considering buying a larger purchase. So we're not talking about a bracelet here, a $5 bracelet. We're talking about a car, a home, something fairly substantial in the life of the customer. It's that buying formula that they mentally go through. What is it? So the buying formula, we say, is current dissatisfaction multiplied by future promise must be greater in the mind of the customer than his costs and fears. The motivators have to weigh heavier in the mind of the customer than his inhibitors. If you don't have that, you don't have a buyer yet. So it's our job to solve the equation. So the big idea here is that we need to develop a sales process that centers itself around the buying formula. So we call that the 4-2 sales formula process. Now this is not to be confused with the buying equation. The 4-2 sales formula process is a process, a sales process that intertwines and embeds at its core the buying equation. Current dissatisfaction multiplied by future promise must be greater than the customer's cost and fear in the mind of the customer. So the 4-2 sales formula process is made up of 6 parts, or categories we call them. Last time we got through the first 4 parts. Next time when we meet pretty soon, we're going to dive into the last 2 parts. Let's review real quickly. The first category is relationship. This is where you become coffee worthy, you start to build trust with the customer, and you start to understand the customer's mission and urgency, and you start to learn about his personal urgency. Then you graduate to the second category, which is motivation. So the motivation of the customer is what's their general reason for being in front of you? What's going on in their life that has them walking through the door? Then we move into the third category, which is current dissatisfaction. Here we start the buying formula. And then finally, the fourth category is future promise. So that's what we want to do. Those are the first 4 parts, the front end of the 4-2 sales formula process. Do you know those first 4 parts? Have you memorized them so much that you can take your customer and travel through all 4 of those categories casually and conversationally? We need to ensure that we've got these 4 parts in the front of the buying process or the sales process down before we go any further. So that's what we're going to do right off the bat when we meet on this next Sales Academy number 2. So your assignment is to memorize not only the 4 parts, relationship, motivation, current dissatisfaction, and future promise in that order, but also to memorize your lines that allow you to take the customer to travel through all four categories. We're going to start our day with this. Now, as a little tip for you, remember the Mastery Accelerator, a great tool to memorize small parts of a greater process. Refer back to your Mastery Accelerator if you're unsure about any of these 4 parts in executing them flawlessly. Can you perform and travel through all 4 parts? It should sound something like this. Welcome to the Fairways. My name is Patrick. May I ask your name? Jill. Good to meet you, Jill. Where are you coming in from? Oh, Tampa, Florida? Fantastic. I lived in Tampa for about 5 years. You're not that far. And I'll tell you, you could not have picked a better day to go home shopping. How has your home shopping been going so far? Oh, okay. First time here. Great. Well, thank you for choosing us first. You know, Joe, before we get too deep into this, would you mind if I asked you a few brief questions just to get a feel for where you're coming from and how best I might be able to help you? Fantastic, thank you. Well, let's start here. Why are you thinking it might be time to make a move in the first place? Oh, I see. Tell me a little bit more about that. Oh, all right, I got a pretty good general idea now. So just kind of looking at where you currently live, what's frustrating you about your current home? Is there anything causing you trouble? Oh, I see. Tell me a little bit more about that. And how is that affecting your life? I see, all right. Well, let me ask you, if hypothetically, if you had $30,000 to spend fixing up a room in your house, where would you spend it? Ah, there, okay. Well, I don't blame you there, me too. Tell me more, just give me a little more insight. I see. And so how's that really affecting your life? I see, all right. Well, if, one last question about where you're currently living. Is there anything else that's bothering you? Oh, okay. Tell me more about that. I see. And how's that affecting your situation? All right. Well, Jill, shifting gears, let's take a look at this future home. What are some of the must-haves in this future home? Tell me more. And how would that improve your life? Yeah, I can see that. Another question about this future home. If you could bring one thing over from your current home into this future home, what would that look like? Oh, okay, yeah. And tell me a little bit more. And that would improve your life? Fantastic. Well, final question. What's a perfect Sunday morning look like in your new home? Yeah. Tell a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. And that would improve your life by? Okay. That's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to take your customer through the relationship and transition using permission to question into the overall motivation, then move into the customer's current dissatisfaction, asking 3 questions to get at what's not working in their current situation. And then finally move into the 4th category, future promise, asking 3 future promise questions. Remember, you want to drill down deep. Tell me more about that. How is that affecting your life, right? Or for future promise, tell me more about that. How would that improve your life, right? So that's what we're going to do right off the bat with our practice partners. I want you to really, really come prepared. Remember, gang, mastery is found on a road called repetition. Get out that mastery accelerator, really work on this, and then be prepared to demonstrate these 4 categories casually and conversationally for our next time. All right, we'll see you soon. It's around the corner and I can't wait. Very excited to see you guys. Take care.